We had a large group of kids come and visit Parliament House last week from families like what Magda's just described, and a mixture of whole different families. And the way they put it, I found tremendously powerful, where they said, I don't want a national debate about my family. I don't want the kids in the playground to be talking about whether my family is as good as theirs because everybody's voting and it's on the news every night. The power of that, I'm not going to pretend to know what Mag just described. Of course I don't. White, male, heterosexual, you've got to go back 100 years or 200 years before anyone from my mob was discriminated against in any way. So when you hear people who are aware of what they might be about to confront and they're saying, please stop it, it makes sense to me that we stop it and we do the radical thing of members of Parliament voting on a law. It's weird. We're having a national debate about whether or not members of Parliament should vote to change the law. That's why we have a Parliament.
OK, I'm going to go to Fiona Nash. Now, the point that's being made here, particularly strongly by Magda, is that this should be a human right, not something that the public votes on, but something that just exists anyway. Do you reject that idea?
I do, and I think it is a decision for the Australian people at this point in time, notwithstanding everything Magda's just said. I mean, I'm a mother. I can't imagine what it would be like to have teenage children that were in that darker space that they were contemplating suicide. That would just be...
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that to think that people aren't going to, become... this argument will not get nasty and ugly, I think is really naive. I think that, it's easy for, it's easy for us to all sit there and say, let's talk about this. But if someone is nasty about your family, about your way of life, about your being, and you can't. It's very difficult to sit and take. It's not easy for an adult, never mind a child, to take. And there's families out there concerned. I just think that this is going to be a nice, let's have a decent argument about this is really dumb.
Hang on. Just let me respond for a sec. Look, I very respectfully disagree, and I think the media has a big role to play in this. They have a lot of power and a lot of responsibility to lead this debate in the way we all want to see it head. And I think, interestingly, the experience in Ireland should give us a bit of direction with this as well, and I understand the suicide rate went down. And that country, what they felt afterwards and how things went forward, I think we can take a lot from that.
Did you accept that?
But I have friends who lived in Ireland, and it was very, very ugly debate. It was some nasty, it got really below the belt. It was not, I mean, great, the outcome came out well, but I don't know if we want to put children and families through that. I don't think it's necessary when that's what the government's supposed to do. And like I said at the start, no one asked us when they changed it in the first place.
A plebiscite isn't the thing that necessarily triggers people being nasty.
Okay, yes, I'm going to give you the final point here because we're going to move on.
One simple question. Do you think I'm equal to you?
Of course I do.
If I was your daughter and being gay, would you think that I should have the right to be married?
I've been asked this question actually a lot over the last 12 months, and my response was that my view is still the traditional view of marriage. I love my children regardless of what they ever brought home for me, would make absolutely no difference at all. I completely respect your view and your desire to see that as equality.
But you won't give me my rights.
No, others have a different view. I don't think there's any. No, I think the really important thing in this debate is there isn't right and wrong. People have different views, and the nation should be able to determine what that majority view is.
But we have to do what this law says is right, when it's a human right to be free and to have choice.
Well, we're trying to give all the Australian people the ability to tell us that, and then the law will change.
All right, we're going to move on. Remember, if you hear any doubtful